Hello! If you're joining me, then you're most likely joining me because of the title down below. And that title is most likely along the lines of note-taking. So, note-taking. We are currently in the unit of fantasy, and we are doing fantasy book clubs. Our read aloud for our fantasy novel is The Thief of Always, TTOA, by Clive Barker. When we have our note-taking, we always make sure we have whatever we're reading, whether it's an ebook or a tangible book, with us. We also have some writing utensils, and we have our book club folder. Inside our book club folder, we have our red sheet, which has some helpful ways to be taking notes and things to be looking for. We have some extra notebook paper. We have our notes sheet, and we also have our problem tracking sheet. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on the problem tracking sheet, but I do want to talk about it just a little bit. What you're doing on here is, as you see problems arise in the story, and there's going to be some, at least one, you're going to say whose problem it is, where you see it first appear, and if you see a solution, but maybe you have to wait till the end for the solution, and you would keep tracking this. You may need to go to the back, you may need to go to another sheet of paper, and that is okay. So just keep that going as you read through your novel. What I want to focus on is your actual note-taking. So this is our title page for our note-taking. We filled out our MLA, page number, our title. The title of our book, ours is TTOA, is a class set, author, our start date. We haven't put our finish date because it's not done yet. As a class, we will be done with this book by May 25th because that's when our reading projects are due. And we're reading about 4 to 5 chapters a week. Now, you and your book club have filled this out already, and you have decided what your goals were and how you're going to finish book 1 and 2. So we're going to keep moving forward. When you're taking notes for book club, we have currently in class been talking about setting, characters, power, and problems. Problem sheet, that's where all your problems will go. Setting, characters, and power, notes will be here. Now, every time you pick up your book, you want to make sure you go ahead and put the date of your note-taking and probably the section or chapter number that you're on. So these are my notes for chapter 1. Now, I took down 2 bullets. Rictus has the power, so this is for power, and this is for character. So this is just what I saw. And I just do this at the end of every chapter, or at the end of every 2 or 3 chapters. I don't do it every page. That's not the best form of note-taking. Now, if you see a cool word, jot it down. But you don't need to pause and reflect deeply every single page for these fantasy novels. Now, if you do want to stop every 2 pages to reflect, that's okay. But don't be spending so much time that you start to get frustrated with how much you're reflecting and then not really enjoying the story. So, Rictus has the power is my claim. I saw proof of it on page 8. So when I went to my novel, I went to page 8, and I just took the first part of the quote down, and this is actually a whole paragraph that I'd want to use as evidence, but I don't need to write down the whole paragraph if I'm writing my page number. So I just put the beginning, and then, in the moment, I tell my thinking. So shows that Rictus, character, has power of knowledge over Harvey. So this quote is when Rictus is kind of teasing Harvey. He's like, I know a place where the sun's always shining and good things always happen, and Harvey doesn't know that place, but Rictus does. So it's a knowledge of power. So, or power of knowledge, excuse me. Now the next one I took was for setting. Now you'll notice my page numbers are actually out of order. That's okay. When you're reflecting, if you think about setting first, or power first, or characters first, okay, cool. Whatever comes to your brain first, make that your first note. It's going to be the one that really jumps out at you. So I found a quote on some setting on page 3, and it starts out, "It was a monstrous month." Now this quote is actually a whole paragraph. Now I'd have to be careful, but each sentence kind of has something good I could use later. So I've marked it, and this paragraph shows how the year and subjects are like ours. So the setting is like our world. We haven't seen any magic enter really yet, so I'm holding off on claiming there's magic in this world. Now I'd still want to keep reflecting. I have 2 notes, but I'd still want to reflect on my setting, characters, and power a little bit more, and even my problems, just because I know as a mature reader of fantasy, the beginning of books, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8, they're all about setting up the story and really making sure you understand the setting, the characters, the power, the problems. And so there's gonna be a lot of little bitty details I need to catch. So actually what I'm thinking is for Rictus, I know there's a character description of him. So I'm gonna put Rictus, and I'm gonna put appearance, because that's how he looks. And I even could use a vocabulary word like character traits. And I see this to kind of go through my book, kind of scan chapter 1. See, I remember seeing it towards the bottom of my page. He looked harmless enough. He was no more than 6 inches. So this is where we get a description of Rictus. So this is page 5. Page 5. Circle it, and I'm just gonna put the beginning of my quote. He looked harmless enough. He looked harmless enough. All right, and I'm going to make sure I just tell myself my thinking. So this is, oops, put a quotation mark. This is where we are talking about Rictus, and we're getting a description of how Harvey feels about Rictus. How Harvey feels and sees Rictus. Feels about. So I just kind of look over this and say, is that gonna help my future self? Yeah, I think that is. Now, whether I want to stop here, I've covered these 3 things, and I did write a problem on my problem tracking sheet about how Harvey's bored, and he sees that as a problem right now. And Rictus is like, hey, well, let's go to the holiday house, which is maybe the solution, but we'll have to look till the end of the book to see if it really is the solution. So ladies and gentlemen, I've shown you how to take some notes. Now, this is not how you always have to take notes, but it's a suggestion to make sure you have your page numbers, evidence, and some really great thinking, rather than just paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of stories. So give it a try. If it helps, hopefully you'll get an A or an A+, or maybe some extra credit. That'd be really awesome. All right, see you next time.